better, smarter.
Yes. Hello, everybody. It's Donna Cravata, and we are back again for another Real 50 Over 50 interview. And today we have Cheryl Borland. And Cheryl is a seasoned attorney with 30 years of experience. She's a member of a women owned and women run law firm. And she has recently been sworn into the U.S. Supreme Court and dedicates much of her practice to helping small and women owned companies navigate the legal landscape. She's deeply involved with the Women's Business Enterprise National Council and serves on the board of Women's Business Enterprise Council, the Ohio River chapter. After turning 50, she redefined her work so she could achieve that elusive work-life balance and continues to provide legal counsel to diverse owned business owners who ordinarily would not have access to this level of legal counsel, which is pretty special. Thank you, Cheryl. Thank you for being here, and thank you for all of the work that you do to support women in business.
Oh, thank you, Donna. It's my pleasure to be here, and it's my honor to be here and part of your 50 over 50 series.
So let's just dive right in. We touched a little bit on after turning 50, you kind of redefined what you were doing. Do you want to expand upon that a little bit? How did you achieve that elusive work-life balance?
Yeah. I was a non-traditional law student. I didn't graduate from law school until I was 32, so I was already behind the curve. And I had two children before I went to law school, and I had a baby while I was in law school. I don't recommend that route. Um, so, and this was back in the day before we had online access and remote and emails and cell phones. So,
Mhm.
in order to work, we had to be in the office, and it was really tough to try and find that balance because the partners of law firms didn't really care that I had an infant at home. In fact, one of them asked me, with all seriousness, asked me if I had someone that fixed dinner and cleaned my house while I was at work so that I had dinner when I came in the door with the kids for daycare. It was like, oh, yeah, no, that would be me. Um, but as I developed my career and developed some expertise and created a book of business, and about the same time as I turned 50, I discovered the world of WBEs, which is Women's Business Enterprise National Council, which is a national certifying organization for women owned, women run, and women managed businesses, all the way from startup brand new companies all the way to up to multi-billion-dollar companies. So it's not, the traditional female businesses. Um, and I walked into that conference in Philadelphia 12 years ago, and there were 5,000 women at that conference. And I was just blown away by the energy. And I was working at a large regional law firm here in Cincinnati. And I came back and I said, this is amazing.
Mm.
Um, and, couldn't get traction. So I made it a task to find an opportunity to work for women owned law firms that understood that drive and that commitment to being successful businesswomen. And I have been part of WeBank organizations, both the RPO, which is a regional partner organization here in Cincinnati, as well as in Philadelphia, which is where our office is based. And then attending conferences and working with other women-owned businesses, not just to support their business and provide them some legal guidance, but also to engage them as suppliers
Mhm.
and engage them as collaborators on different projects that I've been in. And taking the expertise that I've learned in big law and bringing it to a different market segment has
Yeah.
been monumental in the course of my practice in the
Yeah.
last 12 years.
Can we touch a little bit more on that? Because that's such a valuable, almost asset to bring to people. I do the same thing on the marketing side, and um, And I worked in big firms, so I understand what you're bringing, and I know that what you're bringing is the benefit of it and not the red tape of it.
Yes, exactly. And because of the pricing modules, like I recently learned some of the first year associates right out of law school and what they were making as attorneys, which astounded me.
Yeah.
But also their billing rate as a first year associate. And not to disparage their accolades, and I work with the law school here. I work with Chase College of Law, named for Salmon P. Chase. And I work with their Center for Entrepreneurship for law students that want to become entrepreneurs and own their businesses, or they want to work with entrepreneurs like I do to get inside the mindset as a mentor and counsel for them. And I'm amazed at the quality of the law students that are at that school and schools across the country. And I'm going, wow, I don't think I was that good I don't think I was that good 30 years ago. So the competition is there. But small, medium-sized businesses, which make up about 80% of the businesses today, can't afford them.
No.
So they go to alternative tools like, Google. They'll search for whatever they're looking for at Google. They'll go to LegalZoom to form their business, or they'll have their accountant file the articles, or they'll just file their articles and get their tax EIN number from the IRS, and voila, their business is like, well, not exactly. There's much more to it than that. And, I've had clients that said, oh, well, we drafted our own agreements and we just need you to look at it. And they had an LLC and they gave me a partnership agreement. It's like, no, you're not a partnership.
No.
So just a lot of
filing their taxes incorrectly. They don't have the right insurance, and there's such a trickle down effect from that.
Yeah. So and working and talking to these people across the spectrum, I've coined a phrase that is my tagline whenever I'm in a conference call with a new client. That my colleagues in Philadelphia have adopted it too. It's fine until it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And if the documents don't speak to the issue, then it's litigation. And the only people that ever win in a litigation matter are the attorneys and the accountants. And now, because there's so much alternative dispute resolution, the mediators, which is a need because it allows you to resolve and get to some resolution in a matter without years and years of litigation. But it's still an expensive avenue. So being proactive and speaking and teaching workshops on why legal stuff matters from some local incubators that are creating lifestyle businesses with individuals within the community here in Cincinnati and a couple other cities, all the way up to the women-owned business organizations at their annual conferences or some of their business development programs. Why the legal foundation is so important and why they need to know. And so it's not just fill in a few forms and fill in a few blanks. There's a whole education piece on how to run your business as a business, because if you don't, it allows to pierce the corporate veil, it allows risk to personal assets, it allows a whole lot of terrible things that can happen. But also, if you're going to start and run a business, you need to make sure that you understand what you need to do. And filling the lines and filling the articles online doesn't get that to you. You need to have that resource. And if the resources are Google Law, AI, which is new, into the four-way, TikTok lawyers, TikTok SMEs that tell you what you think they need to know about starting a business or running a business, or accountants that they're great. I love accountants. I love CPAs, but they're not lawyers.
Yeah. So and then there's like, national laws, and then there are state and county laws. insurance.
hmm
So, it's across the board. You have to look through all of those things.
Yeah, crossing a state line or operating in one county versus another, you have different filing requirements. I have a former client that went to jail because he never paid his sales taxes on his business.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. And, people think the internet is easy and I'm just doing this little small thing. Nobody's going to care. It doesn't really matter. But it does. I mean, like, because I worked in a law firm for so long, when I started my business, before I even had a client, I had contracts, I had, like, proper business structure, I had insurance. And, like,
mhm,
18 years ago when I started, there weren't very many options for insurance for virtual businesses.
mhm,
So my insurance guy got creative, but I had insurance.
mhm. And you need to have your team. You need to have your legal counsel. You need to have your accountant. You need to have, your business advisors. You need to have your insurance uh, provisions and making sure that they're adequate. One of the
Mhm,
things we found in COVID, and I think this was a Warren Buffett quote, that when COVID hit, um, when the tide went out, we found out how many people were swimming naked,
mm,
um, because we can't plan for best case scenario when we're running and operating our businesses, because it's never best case snenario.
yeah.
We always have to think of the worst case scenario, which is why lawyers don't get invited to parties, because we're the Debbie Downers of the world. It's like, oh, come on, like, what are the chances? Like, this is great. We're excited. We're going to do this. It's like, well, but what happens if it doesn't work? Like, what then? I'm like, oh, shut up. Go away. Don't burst my bubble. Um,
Yeah, it's true. The lawyers don't get invited. When I worked in the law firm, when we would want the bankers and the other parties to come to our offices for for a signing or something, we would have to, like, drop $5,000 at Smith and Walensky's to get them to come.
mhm, I know. Yeah, because it's like, oh, an evening with lawyers. Oh, stick needles in my eyes. You know, but I also, when I'm talking with these companies and when I'm talking with clients, I said, look, you're in the best situation by having a good lawyer, a good business lawyer. I'll qualify that, a good business lawyer, because you can have your, once I get to know them, I represent for a while, I'll let them have their business conversations, like, this is our pricing and this is our workflow and these are, whatever the business parameters, and they come back to me to put it into an agreement for them. And I said, and you can use me, like I told my kids when they were growing up, use me as the reason.
Hmm.
Like, I'd love to go. My mom won't let me.
Yeah,
So
my
love to
lawyer
do
won't.
this, dude. It's a great idea. Looking forward to working with you. But have you met my attorney? Like, she might look like a nice woman from Cincinnati, Ohio, from the Midwest. But you don't want to get sideways with her. And she says that I can't do this, so I can't do this, and so we need to find a workaround. It's like,
Hmm.
use me as a backstop, and
Hmm.
sometimes I'll be in meetings with them, and sometimes I won't. And if I'm not in a meeting with them, it's easier for them to say, hey, look, I need to take this back to Cheryl. I need to talk to her. I can't make a decision. If I'm on the call in the meeting, there's no way for them to say, hey, I need to talk to Cheryl, other than we need to sidebar this conversation, even
Hmm.
though she's in this meeting.
Hmm.
Um, but it's all about, working collaboratively with the clients,
Yeah,
not being difficult, and being in a small firm made up of big law expats, um, allows us to provide an affordable price point for clients that need our services,
yeah.
um, which is, that's one of the things that I've
That's a
heard all
gift.
the way through.
That's a
Like,
gift.
we can't afford a lawyer. We're a startup. We're doing this. We're on a shoestring. It's just like, if you don't hire a lawyer, you're not going to have a business.
Yeah. I mean, it is a gift. I used to write the billing policies. I implemented all the financial applications in law firms. I know what they charge,
Uh huh.
and it's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So to be able to have that kind of brain trust to put to a small business, it kind of makes you bulletproof, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that the advantage of being in a and the boutique firm where I am is that it allows me, now my kids are all grown and gone, and now I have two grandchildren coming in, but it allows me some flexibility for that really elusive work-life balance.
Mm-hmm.
And especially within the transactional field, because I don't do litigation. If it's litigation, it goes to someone else in the
Yeah.
office. Like
This goes on forever.
I'm too old to be doing any litigation. Like I can help to try and litigate proof your business venture, but if it goes sideways for whatever reason, because I can't
I mean,
predict the other side.
those transactions go for years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When I worked in the law firm, I started in litigation, and I immediately went to M&A because those deals were 3 months, and then you burned the documents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And because unless you're in the midst of a deal, there's some balance,
Yeah.
not churning discovery or answering pleadings at 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday night, which, my heart goes out to the litigators in my firm and the litigators that were my classmates that are still litigators, and they love it. I mean, there is a mindset and a mentality to be in a really good litigator. You have to love it. You have to eat that stuff for breakfast. That's not me. Like I'm about getting the deal done. Like, what do we need to do? How do we resolve this short of litigation? I just had a mediation last week over a business transaction that went sideways because they didn't have a lawyer. They came to me after they closed the deal and it was already sliding, and it took time to get to mediation. It was an expensive venture, and they're like, well, we thought we were doing it right. It's just like, nothing against, other business professionals, but there's business brokers in the world that are good brokers, but they're not lawyers.
Yeah.
And it's hard. It's a hard sell. Like you have a business broker, but you still need a lawyer.
Yeah. And it's, you're trained to do a specific thing. Nobody else is trained to do that. Mm-hmm. It's years of training. Yeah. And not just school. It's, work is like, it's the entire, career as a lawyer is continuing education. Mm-hmm. So you're always learning and you're always growing and you're always adapting to the way the laws are changing and the other things around that, because it's not, everything is connected.
Mm-hmm. Everything builds on themselves. And the longer we practice, the more we see the things that can go sideways so that we can help to educate our clients. It's just like, you don't need to make all the mistakes yourself. My job is to make sure that you understand the risk, the risk of what you're doing and the cost benefit analysis. And you may not agree with what I'm telling you, and it's something that, and if you want to go against my advice in a particular project, that's well and good. I'm going to document my file and I'm going to send you a note that says, you're doing this against my advice. Mm-hmm. And if that's a risk that you have the tolerance for, just beware. But there's a lot of lawyers that say, oh, if that's what you want to do, fine, we'll do that and we'll figure it out afterwards. And, falls, once again, even with the law firm, it falls within the category of it's fine until it's not.
It's not, yeah. Yeah, and Mary Beth is weighing in, and she's saying that people start businesses and they're dazzled by putting money and time into the more fun things, marketing, branding, social media, and never think about a business lawyer. So she is thanking you for raising this critical part of being in business. Yeah. And it is critical. And I think, just a couple of horror stories could make you come searching for Cheryl. But I don't want to focus on the horror stories. What I would really like to talk a little bit about is, before we went live, you were sharing about some business that you are involved in, called Barney's Sweet Shop.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Because I love that story.
Yeah. So because I'm at the point in my life in 30 years of practice, I have the ability to invest financially and businesses that I see come along the way. Um, and sometimes I invest directly and sometimes I invest indirectly. But Barney's Sweet Shop is a gourmet caramel corn brittle company that was spun out of a series of bad happenings. And she decided to spin it and, create her own thing. So she started out making it with old school with a microwave popcorn popper and a 2 quart pan on the stove. Um, my daughter and I invested some capital in her business and allowed her to create a commercial kitchen with commercial equipment that ramped up the production rate substantially. And as a result of that, she now has 30 something different flavors, sweet and savory, and some mixes, custom blends, custom flavors for uh, clients that reach out. She'll do custom blends. She's now in the Nashville airport at the Tennessee Tribune stores, and it's on an end cap. So if you're going through the Southwest Terminal and Nashville airport, stop and get your bag of Barney Sweet Shop. There's a QR code in the back of the packaging, so it takes you to the website so you can order and ship directly to your house once you get home. Because once you have that bag on the plane, you will be ordering it on a go-forward basis. And then we're in the process of negotiating to go into some other airports. But it's a women-owned business. She'll certify, and we'll certify her as a women-owned business to take advantage of the WeBank connection. And that's just one example. We have Barney Sweet Shop. There's other lifestyle businesses that have come much the same way that I've touched and part of the business development programs through WeBank, as well as Mortar Incubator here in Cincinnati. That she was a social worker and she started out making cookies just to relieve her stress from her job. She's married, had a couple of small children, and she started baking these cookies. And she came through the Mortar Incubator, and I came in and talked about why legal stuff matters. And I followed her. She's like 10 years in business now, and she went from there to Incubator Kitchen, and then she went from there to her own brick and mortar company location, and now she's expanded to a second one. She has a food truck. She has contracts with a large regional church where she's delivering, I think 10,000 cookies on a Saturday and Sunday. She's at the Cincinnati Zoo. She's does corporate events, and she now has her pre-made cookie dough in Kroger stores here in Cincinnati. As a result of just her brainchild. So her husband now works with her children now work with her. She's the example for her children and her family on how hard work and some opportunities that came her way and some funding that came her way to really grow and launch her business.
And it's a legacy business if her whole family is working there.
Right. It's now a legacy business. I'm sure when she started out, she had no idea that it was going to be that it was going to be that successful. But now she's turned around and now she's working with other women within her community and within her network on how to do this, like giving back. And that's what has always struck me about women in business, regardless of what level you are and what business it is. We will go out of our way to make sure that our sisters succeed. How can we help? Who can I introduce you to? Who do you need? Oh, you need to, and I see this day, time after time at a national or regional conference. Oh, you need to see Susan Smith. Oh, there she is across the room. And then being taken by the hand across the room to make an introduction right on the spot.
Yeah.
Business happens, and women are very collaborative and very supportive with each other when it comes to working together, being stronger together, supporting each other, hiring each other. There's clients that I have that they will only hire other women businesses to support their businesses. They're very intentional. Corporate America, there's strong corporates here in Cincinnati that are very intentional in growing their supplier diversity pipeline so that they can support women on minority owned businesses within their supply chain. It's intentional, it's on purpose, and uh, the energy with women business owners, I love talking about them because it just brings my heart so much joy to be able to support those kinds of businesses.
Yeah, I agree tenfold. I mean, that's why I started this whole thing, because I realized with these conversations around 50 over 50 and 40 over 40, they were all for people that were not us, you know? We were kind of getting pushed to the side. And I have since learned I was going to nominate myself for the Forbes 50 over 50 this year. And I
Mm-hmm.
went and looked at the application for women who are founders or small business owners. They have to have a minimum of $10 million in revenues to
Mm-hmm.
even qualify to submit the application. So,
Oh,
we're out of the running before we even
mm-hmm.
start.
Yeah, so it's the government definition of a small business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's no longer a small business anymore. But it's also, you know, it's not going towards the people that need that level of visibility.
Mm-mm.
They don't need it.
It's, 80, I think 80% of the businesses in existence are small, true small businesses, not that 10 million in revenue, small business. Um, and the biggest hindering factors that comes into existence is the lack of capital. Um, there's not enough funding that goes into female founded businesses. Now the private equity world and the angel world are starting to come around. So there are a few funds, there's two here in Cincinnati that
Mhm.
look to invest in female founders and their companies. Um, but those are few and far between. It's in single digits of percentage of venture capital, angel funds, private equity that goes into female founded businesses.
Yeah, they don't want us to succeed.
No, no, it's not cool. It's
No,
not savvy. It's
because they know.
whatever the reason is, it's just not available.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of scrappy entrepreneurs out there that um, when they start looking for that capital, they're like, well, wasn't your first round your friends and families? It's like, oh, my friends and families don't have any money either. That's why I'm here. And if you're like just starting out, banks aren't going to loan,
No.
especially if it's a services business and not, manufacturing. They're not going to loan. Um, there's some predatory lending opportunities out there, that aren't, sound really enticing in the beginning because there's like, well, what else do we do? But once you get into that loop, you don't ever get out. It's the whole payday loan syndrome. Um, and a substantial amount of founders' net worth, female or otherwise, are wrapped up into their businesses.
Hmm.
And as they pass from generation to generation, the success rate from generation to generation declines rapidly. So by the time you get to about the fourth generation, about 3% of those original companies are still in existence for one reason or another. Because being an entrepreneur is hard.
Hmm.
It is not for the faint of heart.
No, it isn't.
You're,
I'm
you're
18 years in.
yeah, 24/7. You have to worry about, wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and it's just like, oh man, how am I going to do that?
Yeah. There's no safety net.
Mm-mm. No, there is not. Um,
There is no safety net, but you are doing incredible work. And um, because of my very long experience in the legal profession, I can attest to not very many people in the legal profession do what you're doing.
mhm, yeah. So,
That is a
and
rarity.
yeah, and so I know part of the capstone of my 30th year, I went with 25 of my alumni colleagues from Chase to Washington, D.C. in March. And the Supreme Court has group swearing-ins for alumni, various law schools, and they haven't done it since, or we haven't. We've done it 10 times. The school has gone 10 times, and they haven't had a trip since pre-COVID. So we were there with 24 alumni from Chase. There were a group of alumni from Texas A&M and a group of alumni from um, another law school. The name escapes me. That's a part of, not only am I 50 over 50, I'm over 60 now. So details. But 3 different law schools were there. But we also got, before we went in, we were in a private room, and Chief Justice Roberts came in and talked to us and talked about the Supreme Court, what their days were, allowed us to ask questions of him, which is, we're astounded, like, oh, I'm not going to ask you, ask him. And just awe-inspiring. And then they had 2 opinions that they read that morning. Just to be in that room, like, I'm not a litigator. I'm never going to have a case that's going to go to the Supreme Court. But to have the honor of being able to be sworn into the Supreme Court after 30 years of practice was just it was an awe-inspiring trip. My youngest daughter, who is 30, will be 31 next month, went with me, and her argument was, I went to law school with you. Therefore, I should get to go to the Supreme Court to see you sworn in.
She has a point there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, she reminds me on a constant basis of the reason
Somehow,
though,
I think you should be getting a benefit from her going to law school with you.
Yeah, I know, but she uses that argument frequently, that the reason she is the way that she is because she listened to law school lectures in utero as opposed to Mozart and Bach and classical readings.
That's funny. Well, we are at 30 minutes. I cannot believe it. I'm going to put up your website so people know where they can find you. And please connect with Cheryl. She is a wealth of information. And I mean, I just cannot stress enough what a gift she is to women-owned businesses, minority-owned businesses, entrepreneurs, people that are scraping by every day, because accomplished lawyers don't usually do this.
Well, thank you,
It's
Donna, for the opportunity to be here.
it's
It's been
such a
my
gift,
pleasure.
and I like to end these interviews with just leaving a wisdom bomb. So something that you like to leave everybody with, something maybe actionable, something meaningful to you. Just
Listen to your heart and make sure you listen to your lawyer, because once again, it's fine until it's not.
That is excellent advice. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for everything that you do. We will be back tomorrow with a wisdom panel, and it's the spiritual squad. And then we will be back next Wednesday. We have interviews booked all the way into next April, so lots more coming. And please connect with Cheryl, and she's at her website, also on the Real 50 Over 50 webpage. Have a great Wednesday, everyone.
Great. Thank you. Take care.